talk about three cases. I think Joe indicated the order in which we're going to do them. So, first case, I'm here to report that Tanisha Green, 26-year-old woman from the town of Amherst, was arraigned this morning before County Court Judge James Barnese on a five-count indictment, 4 counts of menacing a police officer, which are D felonies, and 1 count of menacing in the second degree, which is an A misdemeanor. The defendant was arraigned this morning at Erie County Medical Center, and she has been remanded. From here, this case will be assigned to a Superior Court judge, and we will get a return date from that judge as to what the next appearance will be. At this point in time, as I indicated, Ms. Green is remanded, so she will remain in custody, but she will also remain at the Erie County Medical Center, where she is receiving treatment for injuries she suffered in this incident that I'm going to describe to a certain extent. I know that the court ordered a forensic examination, so that'll be part of the process and the procedures that the court follows. But essentially, this case involves 2 incidents. The first one, they occurred over the course of 2 days in a row. The first, it started on Monday, October 27th. The second incident happened the next day, Tuesday, October 28th. It started on Durham Drive, where Tanisha Green lives in the town of Amherst, and it ended with her being shot by an Amherst police officer, and as I indicated, she's recovering from her injuries at Erie County Medical Center. So at about 10:30 in the morning, a civilian called 911, and the Amherst police responded on October 27th at about 11:30 in the morning, or no, about 11 a.m., so about a half an hour later. The 911 call concerned Tanisha Green's behavior. The complainant, the victim in that case, was concerned that Green had been behaving in a threatening and alarming way towards her, and that prior to the police actually arriving, Green menaced 2 separate civilians with a knife. When the Amherst police arrived at 11 o'clock in the morning, the defendant refused to exit her apartment and talk to them about the complaints that they had received, and she had a large butcher knife in her hand that she refused to put down. The police talked to her and tried to de-escalate this situation. It lasted approximately 3 hours. The Amherst police were concerned, obviously, about the other civilians that were there, but also about the defendant's welfare. Ultimately, they backed off of that situation and left her in the apartment complex in her own apartment when she put down the knife inside her apartment. They went back to the Amherst Police Department. They prepared charges for her, but Amherst police officers were posted at the apartment complex to deal with anything in an immediate way if something were to happen with respect to Tanisha Green. The plan was the next day they went back to the apartment on Durham Drive to inform Ms. Green that she was being charged with menacing from the incident that had happened the day before with the civilians. They went to her home at about 11:30 in the morning to talk to her, and when they arrived, Tanisha Green came out of the apartment with a large butcher knife and was threatening to kill the police officers. She refused to put down the knife despite numerous times being directed to do so. She made multiple threats to kill police officers over the next several hours and stated that they would have to shoot her because she was not going to put down the knife. The Amherst Police Department called in their emergency response team. They arrived about an hour later at about 12:30 p.m., and they continued to try to convince her over the next hour and a half to 2 hours to drop the knife. She continued to threaten to kill officers and refused to drop the knife. The Amherst police continued to attempt to de-escalate the situation. They used non-lethal methods, including what I'll call a pepper ball spray that they fired in her direction. Pepper ball releases like it's similar to like a pepper spray, but it had no effect on her. It didn't stop her physically, and it didn't affect her in any way that they could appear to de-escalate from her perspective. She refused to drop the knife. At one point, Green actually took out lighter fluid and sprayed it towards the officers. After she did that, they decided that they should not use the next step, which would have been a taser. because they were concerned that she might have gotten lighter fluid on herself, and that if they used the taser, that it might ignite the lighter fluid. So a couple of hours had gone by, and approximately 2 p.m., the defendant still had the knife. She still continued to refuse to put it down. The pepper balls had been used multiple times, and they had no physical effects on her, and she continued to ignore the officer's requests and commands. Finally, the defendant, with the large butcher knife, and it has about an 8-inch blade, it's been recovered from the scene, she advanced toward the police officers through a doorway to that apartment building, and they were certainly concerned that they were going to be, that she was going to use the knife against them. All 3 officers were concerned. One of the officers fired pepper balls at her again, had no effect, and another officer discharged his firearm, shooting her at least twice, once in the abdomen, and we think the other shot injured her in the ankle. She immediately fell to the ground and dropped the knife. The knife, as I indicated, was recovered from the scene, and Green was immediately provided first aid. She was then transported to the hospital, where she has been since this incident occurred about 10 days ago. As I indicated, she's been treating for the injuries that she suffered, but we are now moving forward with this case with the indictment action by the grand jury. It's important, again, that I note that this defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. But as I noted, the grand jury completed its investigation and returned 5 counts of menacing. Our office has determined that the officer's use of force was justified in accordance with New York State law. There are hours and hours of body cam footage of this incident that happened over a 2-day period. And a police officer may use deadly physical force when it is necessary to defend themselves from what the officer reasonably believes to be the use or imminent use of deadly physical force. The police officers in this case conducted themselves with professionalism and patience and tried to de-escalate this situation without any success. They only used deadly physical force after hours of attempting to de-escalate the situation, and their use of non-lethal force was unsuccessful. And they only used deadly physical force when the defendant came at them with a large butcher knife. Luckily, she sustained injuries but is going to survive, and she's going to be treated at ECMC, and as soon as we know, we'll let you know when the next court appearance is scheduled for. That's all I have on this particular case, but happy to take any questions on that case before I move on to the next one.
Did you mention where she was shot? I'm here, sorry.
Yeah, she was shot in the abdomen, and we believe she was shot in the ankle. We don't have full clarity yet on all of her injuries, but those 2 areas we are pretty certain that's where she was shot.
And Amherst PD, they just recently had, a couple months ago, another guy jump out a window and try to stab them. Is this something that police are more concerned about, these kind of knife attacks towards police?
Yeah, obviously they're concerned anytime anybody uses deadly physical force towards a police officer. It's not just Amherst. We just had one in the city of Buffalo recently. And, these are very traumatizing situations, and they have to act quickly, and I think they also have to act, with patience and carefully, and they try to de-escalate these situations. I think it's clear in this case that they did. Unfortunately, it was unsuccessful, but yeah, these are disturbing situations for police officers to be involved in. But they have a responsibility to respond to these scenes, and other civilians were involved. The allegations include the menacing that had happened the day before. And so, I think officers try to do their best to de-escalate these situations, and unfortunately, that didn't work in this case.
Are they stepping up patrols near? There's a lot of neighbors around that saw it. I know that. Are they stepping up patrols in these areas? Is this a bad area of Amherst?
I don't think it's a particularly bad area. It's certainly not. That's not been indicated to us. It's a, they got a call and they responded to it, and I think the Amherst police have done an exemplary job, at least in this case, for sure. Anyone else?